This is Lady Boule, and I hope you're reflecting on this 4th of July Monday. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. Now, on this day, the 4th of July, I'm asking the question, how can the 4th of July be made relevant? Because it really isn't. It's just a holiday where people shoot off fireworks and get drunk or cook out or do something meaningless. Because people don't even know the meaning of the holiday. It's Independence Day. Independence from what? Most people don't even know. I don't think America teaches enough American history to give a comprehensive understanding of why America needed to fight for her independence. Most Americans don't know that America started out as a British colony and that the British were controlling everything here in the United States, just like they do in Africa and everywhere else they go. I don't think most Americans have that understanding, but that's what it was all about. This country began as a colony of England. Everything was governed by England. They were being taxed. Laws were being made in England concerning them, and they were laws that did not benefit them. When you study the causes of the Revolutionary War, you find that back in England, in the British Parliament, they were passing law after law after law that was designed to restrict the economic progress of the colonists. The British were getting the money. They were benefiting from the colonists. In other words, the colonists were doing all the work and the British were getting all the money. I think that I counted about 12 acts that they passed, and they were constantly passing acts, as they call it, the Stamp Act, the Molasses Act, the Sugar Act. Anything that the colonists came up with that would benefit them financially or any other way, the British would pass a law against it. So at a point, the colonists organized as the Sons of Liberty, which was a small army, and they thought, we're just going to fight. So the British had sent a big ship of tea into Boston Harbor, and they were going to tax them for the tea. Again, the colonists weren't going to get any money. They would have to buy the tea, and then they would have to pay the British taxes on the tea. So they said, enough. We ain't doing this. So they threw the tea overboard, and that was called the Boston Tea Party, and that started the Revolutionary War. We must remember that we were always here. In 1775, when the Revolutionary War began, we were either slaves or free blacks, but we were here. Crispus Attucks, a black man, was said to be the first to die in the Revolutionary War. Not the first black or the first African, but the first man to die in the Revolutionary War. Many blacks fought in the Revolutionary War. The British recruited Africans to fight on their side and promised them that at the end of the war, they would set them free. So they fought. Many of them fought on the side of the British. The British lost the war, but believe it or not, the British kept their word. They transported the blacks that had fought on their side to Canada, to the province of Nova Scotia. And so they settled a province up there with a lot of African Americans who had been enslaved. And there is still a large colony of African Americans descended from those slaves in Nova Scotia to this day. In fact, the Act of the Rock's ancestors were among those, I am told, that either ran away to Nova Scotia to freedom when they escaped slavery, or they were put there by the British after the Revolutionary War. But he is descended from African Americans who went into Canada during slavery. After the Revolutionary War, the colonies, the 13 colonies, became 13 states, and they went about establishing a constitution and putting the framework in place for building a country. It is significant that the Americans, as they became, the white people, became free. And on July 4th, 1776, 1 year after the war began, they wrote their Declaration of Independence. And even though the war went on until about 1783, They declared themselves independent of England. Now, the irony here is that they felt that what was being done to them by the British was wrong, and so they fought for their freedom, and the Africans fought right along with them. They won their freedom, but the Africans remained enslaved from 1776 when they declared their independence from England until 1865 was 89 years. So the Africans had to go back into slavery for another 89 years until 1865, when another war had to be fought for them to win their freedom. So the Americans, the white people will say, fought a war to win their freedom from England, and then a war had to be fought for the black people to win their freedom from them. Oh, the irony. And then it really wasn't freedom. Then it was 246 years that they had spent in slavery, and then they had to actually go through another 100 years of Jim Crow. That brought us up to about 1965, when we started to see some semblance of freedom. Africans, enslaved, and free blacks were always a part of this empire. This is not something that came up overnight by white people. This was something that was put together by black and white people. The black people, unfortunately, were enslaved, but we were always here involved in whatever was going on in this country. But how can the 4th of July be made relevant? It could be made relevant if America would really come to terms with its past. The indigenous people, but I'm only speaking for African Americans, but the indigenous people have a case to be made too. The Indians, as we call them. But I'll let them speak for themselves. But it could be made relevant if America would come to terms with the past and make things right with the people that went into the establishment of this empire. And the way America would come to terms with that would be to recognize, give people credit for what they did, because everybody is of the opinion that white people built this country. And white people were here and they did what they did, but the infrastructure of this country was put in place by the enslaved people. I heard Tariq Nasheed, and I just happened to be clicking by, and I saw this panel that Tariq Nasheed was on, or his name was in the title. I'm not sure that he was on the panel, but they were having this discussion, and this Somali woman, in all of her ignorance, was saying that America was built by the white people and black people were just slaves. Now, that's a fool right there, because nobody brings somebody into their country as a slave if they're not going to do any work. So this is the kind of foolishness that we continue to have to deal with. But the 4th of July could be made relevant, and America has failed in finding a way to bring people together who really are legitimate heirs to this country. And I'm talking about black people now. America has failed to find ways to bring us all together. Everybody said, oh, we were all together on 9/11 when the World Trade Center was attacked in New York. They said we were all together then. But I remember teaching at a middle school in Georgia when that happened, and we were having a discussion, and there were black and white and Hispanic, and I don't think there were any Asians in that particular discussion. And I repeated what Dr. Martin Luther King said, because they were all talking about how horrible it was and all this sort of thing, and the discussion went this way and that. And I said, unless we learn to live together as brothers, we will perish as fools. And that went completely over everybody's head. So on this 4th of July, July 4th, 2022, I'm saying that the 4th of July is not truly relevant. It's just a day that people are off from work and they have a chance to have a big cookout, go to a ball game maybe, or go to a park or do something, spend a lot of money ripping and running up and down the road going to visit people, and not really having a real understanding about what the holiday really means. And America has failed, I believe, in bringing its people together and making people feel a real appreciation and an affection for this country. And we can only hope that as we try to perfect the Union, and we all have a responsibility in this. Maybe one day we can say that this is a relevant holiday, but that's a long way off as I see it. So as I close, I think each of us has to ask ourselves, how much do we really care about America? What does it mean to us? Is it worth fighting for? Is it worth pledging allegiance to? Is it worth being patriotic to? Is it relevant? How is it relevant in our own lives? And if not, how can we make it relevant? These are fair questions. So this, I believe, is one of the reasons why Juneteenth has become a big deal, because Black people will make a big deal out of things. Juneteenth is based on a concept that is real and relevant. People who had been enslaved for 246 years discovered that they were free. So I'll say it like this. Juneteenth means more to Black people than July 4th means to white people, because Black people really understand what Juneteenth was about, and I don't believe that white people understand what July 4th is all about. But let me know what you think about this. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.